Say good morning. So we're here for the tour.
So you or your group, as you walk down the ramp here, come out of the park, make those pictures available for sale after the tour, right here at the AH. Do a really nice job with those pictures. Those pictures will be available for sale right after the tour. So, you guys ready to see Wrigley? Yeah. How many first timers to Wrigley Field? Whoa! Okay, well, welcome those of you and welcome to the people who've been here before. How many of you have been here before have not been here in the last 3 years? Okay, you're going to see a real different park. So here we go.
Yeah. All of our $1 million seats. Big types of This is like the first year that they opened. So went into a lottery online.
Turning to Harry.
Anybody else a picture? Anybody else a picture?
Yeah, I just thought of that. Yeah. It makes that little chirping. I think
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna get you guys.
Yeah, with this one right there.
Yeah. All right, who am I getting? You two? Okay. Whoops. You know what I saw this morning walking to work? Jake Arrieta pushing a stroller with his wife on Southport Avenue.
I heard Eddie Vedder was one of the street musicians playing out on Waveland yesterday.
Yeah, they were yelling at him in the bleachers because he was in the first row. He kept standing up. And no, you don't stand up when the batter's in the box. That's it. Sit down. We don't care who you are. You're Eddie Vedder or whoever it is. You can't see through you, my friend.
Yes.
7. 2 in the morning. This has happened to more than one person. They see a guy sitting in these lower seats right over there. Really? Yeah. Or sometimes the bullpen foam wings.
Ladies and gentlemen, any last minute pictures, please take those now. Yeah.
any last minute pictures, take it now. I wonder what the flashing lights for down there.
That used to be the first road. So they actually brought it into the minimum distance that they were allowed by the these are some great old seats. Brian? Yeah. You see that if you watch it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, about one of the most historic home runs in baseball history happened right here at that home plate. The called shot by Babe Ruth in the 1932 World Series, Game 3. Yankees were up 2 games. They were winning Game 3. Ruth had one home run already, so did Garrett. And he comes up to the 5th inning. Now you got to remember, Ruth is in the latter part of his career, 37 years old. And they're really giving it to him. The fans, the Cub dugout, players on the field, they're really giving it to Ruth. Like, what are you doing out here, old man? You should be retired already. Well, he comes up here in the 5th inning. First pitch from Charlie Root, R-O-O-T, the Cub pitcher, strike 1. Root kind of points over to the Cub dugout over here, 1. And they're really throwing stuff at him. A lot of trash talk. Next pitch, ball 1. Next pitch, ball 2. 4th pitch, strike 2. And Ruth kind of looks over here again, kind of puts his hands up, 2. Not worried. Now, here's where history gets a little blurry. Pitch 5. He points in that direction. Was he pointing at Charlie Root, the pitcher, giving him what for? Little trash talk back. Or was he really pointing at the center field wall? Now you got to remember those bleachers and that wall weren't out there in 32. It was a wooden wall, okay, with some temporary bleachers and a temporary scoreboard. Next pitch, boom, his second home run over the center field wall. They're saying about 475 feet, one of the longest home runs ever here at Wrigley. Now, Garrett, who was coming up next, actually said to a sports writer, "Can you believe that monkey actually called the shot?" And Garrett actually is verifying that Ruth did point upwards toward the center field bleachers. So did longtime public address announcer Pat Piper, 1916 to 1974, 59 years for the PA announcer here at Wrigley. He was sitting back here, and he also verifies that Ruth hit that home run pointed over the center field bleachers. Now that was his second. Ironically, the last of his 15 World Series home runs. And in a couple more years with the Yankees, he was sold to the Boston Braves. And he really didn't want to go, but the only reason he went is because the Boston Braves management more or less indicated orally that he would eventually be a manager. After 28 games in 1935, he saw that he wasn't going to manage, he quit baseball. So here we go. Follow me.
Birthday Gray.
I get goosebumps over here. I keep forgetting. Here you can pay for his plate here now. Probably have coronary disease, maybe
Thank you.
Yeah, that's Mike. Okay, so I'm down there for 7 weeks. That's your Wrigley, with just days of games. One pool. And that's it's literally just a white box. Yeah, pretty much.
Now everybody's watching.
That was like my favorite part of the tour the last time I did it. Down to the Cubs, and that was, I think that. No, that was the My problem with when you got all the media like, hello, I'm sitting right here. I didn't pay money to look at the back of your head. Oh, yeah,
Sure, I'll give you an idea. Tommy, and as you're walking through the park, you're in the back there, you feel free to ask Tommy any questions. Very, very knowledgeable tour guide. He's been here a lot longer than I have, and we hope to do a bang-up job for you guys. Keep in mind, Pat Piper, when I was a young kid, I came here, and we get here maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before the game, and I couldn't wait for his opening announcement. Attention! Attention, please. Get your pencils and scorecards ready, and I'll give you the correct lineups for today's ball game. And that was usually about maybe about 10 minutes prior to the game starting, and that pumps you up. I couldn't wait, and then he'd give the away lineups in about a minute or two, and then the club lineups. Okay. Now, how many of you have been to Wrigley again? Okay. Some of you have been here. All right. We're going to go back in time, but before we do that, I want to ask 3 questions of you. 1, how many names has this park gone by? How many say just one? Wrigley Field. How many say 2? How many say 3? How many are absolutely clueless? At least you're honest. Okay, the scoreboard up there. How many batted balls have hit that scoreboard in regulation games or postseason since 1938? That's when the scoreboard was in operation. I'll give you a hint. Less than 10. So think about your number. Okay. 3rd question. How many championship baseball seasons has this park been a part of? Well, we know last year, 2016 World Champion Chicago Cubs. But is that the only one? How many say 2? How many say
only
3?
world titles, or are we talking pennants too?
Pardon?
Are we talking only world titles or pennants too?
No. World Championships. Must go all the way here, folks. You're not settling just for a pennant. All right. 4 or more. All right, think about your answers. We'll come back to those questions as we go through the tour. All right, we're going to go back in time. Wayback Machine, 1913. And there's a young entrepreneur here in Chicago named Charles Wiegman. Charlie made his money having pool halls, a movie theater, and diners in downtown Chicago. Perhaps the forerunner of McDonald's. They were kind of in and out diners for the most part. Now Charlie really wanted to own a baseball team, preferably the Cubs or White Sox. But back in 1913, they were not available. So Charlie decided to get together with a bunch of other baseball fanatics, and they literally started their own league called the Federal League. So this park was not built for the National League and the Cubs. It was built for the Federal League for 1913. Now, before we get there, Charlie got together with 6 total owners. He was one, and they're going to have a makeshift exhibition season in 1913. Charlie needed a park. He chose the University of DePaul's baseball stadium, 2 stops on the Red Line. The Red Line's right behind those buildings there. 5 minutes, you're there. Now, they had about 3,000 seats. 40-45 game season, just exhibition games. But for 1914, they added 2 more Federal League owners. Now we've got 8, and we're going to have a full-blown Major League season, 154 games. Well, Charlie needed to find something much more suitable than a college or university baseball stadium. He needed to find a place to put a new park. And somebody told him north. Wasn't going to go south, about 35 minutes on the red line. That's where Comiskey Park was when the White Sox played. Wasn't going to go 20 minutes by car over southwest of here at West Side Grounds where the Cubs played. That's where basically the United Center is today. The Bulls and Blackhawks play there, and the Rush Medical Center's over in that area. So somebody told him about the vacant area here on the north side at Clark and Addison. Came over here, a couple dilapidated buildings. What was here prior? A Lutheran seminary, not cemetery. No dead bodies out here, folks. Although, this is Chicago. Got to think about that for a moment, okay? So anyway, Charlie decided on this place. He rented it out, leased it out for 99 years at $16,000 a year. And they're going to build a park here in 5.5 weeks. You can't get a city permit in 5.5 weeks today, let alone build a baseball stadium. He actually hired Zachary Taylor Davis. Anybody see the hotel across the way there? Anybody know the name?
Hotel Zachary.
Hotel Zachary, after the architect who built this park, Zachary Taylor Davis. We like to keep things in perspective here and keep with the history, you know. So he hires him as architect. He also helped build Yankee Stadium, the house that Ruth built, the Polo Grounds in New York, and Comiskey Park over on the south side for the White Sox. So they come here, design it. What exactly are we talking about? From this major walkway going around to about where the wall starts to elevate, about that point, they put in 14,000 seats down here with a small roof over most of those seats. And they get it done from like March 14th to April 23rd, opening day, 1914 for the Federal League. Charlie's team name? The Chi Feds, Chicago Federals. Federal League, Chi Feds, not real original, but that's the deal. Now the park's name, hey, he put $250,000 in it to build it, so apropos that he calls it Weigman Park after himself. So there's your first name, Weigman Park, 1914. And we've got opening day here, April 23rd. 26,000 Chicagoans show up, 14,000 seats. What do we do with all those extra people? We put them in the outfield. There's basically really nothing out there except maybe a temporary bleacher and maybe a makeshift scoreboard. Otherwise, you're seeing the backs and fronts of buildings. All right? So, these fans that they put out there, and Chi Fed employees like Tommy and myself, they were given a rope that indicates the home run marker. Now, Kansas City Packers, that day's opponent, comes up the bat. We move that rope back 15, 20 feet. Rope up high. Home run over. Whoops, I'm sorry. We move that up high, home run over, double under. Chi Feds come to bat. We move up 20, 25 feet. That rope down by our knees. Double under, home run over. Now, I can see that you're very honest people. A lot of you are saying to yourself, that's cheating. No, home field advantage. And with all this cheating or home field advantage, we did this for 10 years. We got away with this stuff. And we still couldn't win a World Series. So anyway, that was a pretty successful home opener. The Chi Feds come in second place. During the off season, Charlie wanted a little more. He wanted to get more Chicago fans involved in the team. What better way to do it than have a name the team contest during the off season? So Chicago fans got to put their ideas into the sports writers, and they came up with the winning name. Chicago Chickens.
That was the winner.
Now, I don't know if you think that's really a ridiculous name for a baseball team, but Charlie did. And like any Chicago election, we ignore the results. Charlie went down on the list and he came up with Chicago Whales. Strong, powerful, mighty. We have a great whaling industry right out here in Lake Michigan. Hey, my wife saw one the other day. I won't tell you what she was drinking, but it wasn't cool. So anyway, we got the Chicago Whales for 1915 Federal League here in Chicago. They have a whale of a season and win the whole shooting match. They are champions of the Federal League for 1915. So how many championship baseball seasons at this park? 2. 2016 Cubs, 1915 Whales. That's it, folks. 103 years here, 2 championships for the baseball teams. All right, so now things are looking good, right? Charlie's got a championship team, nice little park here, Wrigley Park, and the Federal League folds. It goes under. Why? Many of those owners overspent in renovating old stadiums or building new ones, trying to get major league players to bolt from the American and National Leagues. There were lawsuits by Major League Baseball against the Federal League for trying to take players out of contract from the American and National League. So it was a mess. The league folds. Now, here's Charlie. Nice little Weekman Park. Championship Whales, no league. But Major League Baseball kind of liked what they saw in him. A little bit of a Mark Cuban for his day. And they put him in touch with the owner of the Cubs, one Charles Taft of Cincinnati, Ohio. Yes, the half-brother of William Howard Taft, our former president. I guess he's the only president I've ever heard of who got stuck in a bathtub. Go figure how that happens. Good. But anyway, so he goes out there to see Charles Taft. They kind of negotiate a price. Charlie couldn't afford the Cubs himself. He comes back here and enlists 9 other investors, 10 including himself. Some of which were Armour of Armour Meatpacking Company, Sears of Sears Roebuck, and William Wrigley Jr. Now you got the Wrigley tie-in, right? And they spend $50,000 apiece, $500,000, and they buy the Cubs. They moved the Cubs from West Side Grounds to here because West Side Grounds was like a dilapidated stadium, not worth keeping. They come here for the 1916 season. We've got Cub baseball here. Now, isn't it a little ironic? 100 years it took us to win a World Series here. And I'll tell you something. I was watching that game on the 3rd floor of my condo, that Game 7, and when Coco Crisp hit that 2-run home run to tie it, we have a door that leads to an outdoor balcony. I went and opened the door, and my wife says, "What are you doing?" "I'm getting ready to jump." We lose this World Series, I'm going over 3 floors. And I think we would have heard all kinds of sirens in the city with fellow Cub fans jumping with me. But thank God we didn't have to do that. Okay. So 1916 Cub baseball, 1918, they win their first pennant here. But they don't play the World Series here. Major League Baseball asked them to go to Comiskey Park, where the White Sox play, because they have 32,000 seats there. More Chicagoans get to see the World Series. So we go there, we lose 4-2 to the Boston Red Sox, and they had a little-known pitcher who won 2 games in that World Series. You never heard of him, Babe Ruth. Okay, he was a heck of a pitcher before he became the Yankee slugger. So now we got a pennant. 1919, major flu epidemic in Chicago, and the mayor's office is telling Chicagoans don't congregate where there are a lot of people. Pool halls, movie theaters, diners, everywhere where Charlie Weigman makes money. So he starts having financial difficulty. He sells his shares to William Wrigley Jr. He now becomes majority owner of the Cubs for the 1920 season. Charlie's out. Wrigley's kind of in. He changes the name from Weigman Park for 1920 to
Wrigley Field.
yes, Cubs Park.
Yep.
So there's name number 2, Cubs Park. All right, and over the next 6 years, he buys out all the other investors, and for the start of the 27 season, he changes the name to Little Shy, huh?
Wrigley Field.
Little something in your voices there. And, this joker could have a 4th name in there. It does become Wrigley Field for the start of the 27 season. So how many names? 3. Weigman, Cubs Park, and Wrigley Field. All right, so now, it wasn't always 14,000 seats. 1922 comes around, and this still amazes me. Home plate was out where the pitcher's mound when Weigman Park was first built. Second base, or pitcher's mound was out towards second base. What they did was they took this lower seating, divided it into thirds, put it on wood rollers, and moved it all back about 60, 70 feet. Then they added the upper part, where you're sitting now, the upper part of the lower deck, and we're talking about 26,000 seats for the start of the 22 season. So really miraculous how they did all of this. And by the way, when we moved it back, it was kind of cockeyed how they moved it. So if you're ever wondering, if you're behind home plate, which maybe we get up to the upper deck, you'll see it. The 400 marker is not lined up with home plate and second base. That's the reason. Right? A little cockeyed when they moved everything back at 67. And it's another one of Wrigley's quirks. I love quirks. All right, so we're going to talk about the bleachers a little bit. They added some left field upper deck for the start of the 27 season, right field upper deck for the start of the 28 season. Why didn't they do it all in 1 year? Labor strikes, material shortages, and some bad weather. So it took them 2 years to get the total upper deck built. So for the start of 28, you're pretty much seeing it the way it was back then. And we're talking about 36,000 seats. Any questions that you might have? Any questions before we move on? Yes, sir.
Bears ever win anything here when they were here?
The Bears?
Yeah.
Oh, they won about...
Say how many?
Harry, how many championships Bears? 6? 6? Okay, 6 Bears championships. Nice question, because the Chicago Bears played football here from 1921 to 1970. 50 years of Bear football, NFL football. The field ran from the visitors' dugout to the left field wall. And the only reason they moved, before the 1971 season, the NFL made a slight change in the field configuration. They moved the goalpost from the end line 10 yards back to the end zone, and we ran out of room. So therefore they had to go to Soldier Field, where they've been pretty much ever since. Yes? We're going to talk about the bleachers, and when we get out to the bleachers, and that's our next site.
Can you show us that Babe Ruth home run?
Oh
where
yeah.
475
now if you're
is?
talking about 475, you see basically where maybe that the flat poles on the right, to the right of the scoreboard, that first flat pole is about where he probably hit it. And it landed a little bit beyond that. For about 475 feet, there was a makeshift scoreboard out there, and just to the left of it, a makeshift bleacher. That wasn't like that in 32, what you're seeing out there now. That's quite a clout. I mean, wow, 175 feet. Okay, very quickly, ownership. William Wrigley Jr. owned it until 33 when he passed away. He gave up ownership to Philip Knight Wrigley, PK, his son, starting with the 33 season. He owned it till 77. He was the longest tenured owner of any Cub ownership. Then he died in 77, along with his wife, and in 78 gave up ownership rights to his son, William Wrigley III. Only had it 3 years. And then he sold it to the Tribune Company for $20.5 million. They owned it from 81 to 2009, when our current owners, the Ricketts family, bought it for $175 million. And they put in another $825 million and counting in infrastructure. The new office building back here, which just opened for the Cubs employees in April. They're part owners in the hotel, the Sheraton Hotel Group. The bleachers were redone 3 years ago in right field and left field. We added the video boards. And that's pretty much ownership. Now, a lot of people think, why did William Wrigley III only have it 3 years? I assumed he didn't like baseball. But I had a tour of Father's Day of 20-some members of the Wrigley family. And I was shaking in my boots. One of the people was 55-year-old Steve Schreiner, the grandson of P.K. Wrigley and the nephew of William Wrigley III. His mom was the sister of William Wrigley III. And he said, Bill, I got a slight correction here. We're going to alter this a little bit. My uncle really didn't want to sell the Cubs at Wrigley, but he ran into an inheritance tax liability where he had all kinds of inheritance taxes to pay and he had to give up something. So instead of the chewing gum company, pretty much stuck with that. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where's that ivy come from?
We're going to get out there in just a minute. We're going to answer that question and all kinds of questions out in the bleachers. Here we go.
I'm going to read something.
Interesting trivia. Yep. Thank you. Watch your step. Oh, go ahead. I just got it running the whole time. Go ahead. Tinkered over's the chance.
If you haven't been out to the bleachers for a while, there are a lot of changes. This is the first part of the renovation over here. Actually, about 15 feet of the sidewalk, so they were able to push the whole bleachers out there. Created this walkway. Really great. Now, move on down closer.
Sorry.
It's okay. He's
I'd like to
waiting
make
for
a
us.
correction as one of my tour deskies told me. I always get these two guys mixed up. It wasn't Coco Christopher and Rajan Davis. You know, how could I forget that? But maybe because I want to forget them. But anyway, this is really a neat display case. And back about 3 years ago, when we were renovating the bleachers out here. The Wrigley's family literally bought about 15 feet of street space on Sheffield and Waveland so we could expand the bleachers. We can make the concourse here larger, up above us larger, more concession stand space, bathrooms, more seating, more comfortable area for the bleacher bumps to come to. So I think they've done a great job. And then they put all these display cases in here. Bleacher fans are welcome to come down in the concourse anytime they want. However, people from the main area, the stadium over there, cannot come to the bleachers with their tickets. Bleacher fans can go to that part, but not the other way. All right, we got all kinds of things here besides baseball. 2009 Winter Classic. New Year's Day, Red Wings versus the Blackhawks. We had Bears football, we talked about that. My favorite thing, 1944 Nordy Ski Club off the upper deck. They never did this again for fear somebody might actually die. So that's kind of a cool shot. We've had boxing, we've had Harlem Globetrotter basketball, the North American Soccer League Chicago Sting actually played on this field, and we had the New York Cosmos here who had the greatest player ever, Pelé, playing for the Cosmos on this field. I remember being here seeing him play. And we've had all kinds of concerts, AC/DC, Bruce Springsteen, Sir Paul McCartney, James Taylor, Jimmy Buffett, one of my favorites, Tom Petty, right, Tom Petty, the Heartbreakers, Lady Gaga, I love her. She was the first woman ever to headline a concert here in Wrigley, and that was just a few weeks ago. So all kinds of things happening here at the park. And don't forget the Girls All-American Professional Baseball League. We'll talk about that up in the week. Here we go.
Does that smell good?
Yeah, this is always I always like this part of the day when it gets closer to game time. You start seeing more employees in here, and they start cooking the hot dogs and the pizza and stuff.
Polish and the onions.
Yeah. The smells of the ballpark.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and there's the scoreboard.
Turn around, Rhonda, and look up.
Yeah, go ahead. I just came up the feature elevator. Okay, we'll see you in a minute.
Wow. There's a lot of shirts there.
Yes.
So is this all still original?
No, they just make it look original, but it doesn't look like it could have been built that way.
Yeah.
That's what our owners get it. They know, preserving the integrity of it. I mean, there's some changes. You got these jumbo tops and stuff, but it still has the integrity of the house.
I actually made you walk around because I thought we were going to sit over there, but then they started doing some work. There's always things you have to adapt for at Wrigley. And those are, some can sit down here, down to this level.
The crack of the bat.
I'll know if you really like the tour because when that kid hits the ball up here and you don't warn me, I know where I'm at. Let Bill get hit. If you love me, Bill, turn.
Duck.
You know what? I don't trust you guys. And you haven't even started drinking yet. Go figure.
He knows.
All right. Welcome to the bleachers. And all of you are now official bleacher bums. And you look it. I can get back at you. Okay? All right. Bleacher bums. Where did they get that name? Well, back in the 50s and 60s, Cubs had a lot of really bad teams. Think about it. 45 was their last pennant until last year. So we've had a lot of bad teams. From 46 to 83, we weren't in the playoffs. So fans would be coming out here on a daily basis. Notice what I said, daily basis. There were no lights out here in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So writers would come out here, they'd see the same people, and they would say, "Sir, don't you have a job?" And you would say, "My job is to root for the Cubs." Well, hence, if you don't have a real job, then you must be a bum. There's the term bleacher bum, where it came from. Now, during games, they would find all kinds of ways to entertain themselves. But the Cubs weren't really that entertaining. For example, we have bleacher bum races. One bleacher bum at that foul pole. Another bleacher bum at that foul pole. The wall back in those days was flat from foul pole to foul pole, about this wide apart. Now, there would be a pretty bleacherette in center field. She'd have a hanky with a Kool-Aid. She'd drop that hanky. The bleacher bums would start racing on the wall to get to her first for that Kool-Aid. Now, you can bet this is not the first Kool-Aid the bleacher bums have had. They would fall sometimes, look back into the bleachers. Bleacher bums would prop them right back up on the wall and they'd keep racing. However, sometimes they would fall 11.5 feet down onto the warning track during games. And the Cub management would have to scrape these bums off the turf down there or off the dirt and take them probably to Illinois Masonic Hospital, which is about 15 minutes away. Now, the 69 season got so bad, this happened like 16 times during games. Cub management said, "That's enough. We're going to do 3 things prior to 1970. We're going to increase security, we're going to keep the wall, and we're going to add the basket with the yellow lining." Okay? Now, some of you might think that basket's meant to catch things like scorecards, clothing items, food items. No, it was meant to be a bum catcher. And it's done a great job since 1970. Now, you're probably wondering, how did all this get out here, for the most part? Back in 1936, Bill Veck, Jr., 22 years old, became the right-hand man of P.K. Wrigley. They started designing a permanent bleacher. They started work during the 37 season, July 1st, while the games were going on.
It's Brandon Hyde. That's him and his son out there.
And so anyway,
Coming.
You gotta have a golfer in it, right?
Hey.
somebody of you are going to be really nice to me. That young boy right there. All right. So anyway, they designed this out here, start building it during the season, and they had a wooden wall out here. That wooden wall we talked about. Behind the wooden wall, about this far apart, they start building the brick wall. Once they got that done, then they start building the bleachers. Okay. Then, about sometime in maybe late June, July, PK said to Bill Veeck Jr. By the way, this Bill Veeck Jr., 23 years old, would eventually own the St. Louis Browns, Cleveland Indians, and the Chicago White Sox. And he's in the Baseball Hall of Fame as an owner. And during his latter years, when he was kind of out of baseball, you'll see him up there in the center field bleacher, straw hat, shirt off, wooden peg leg, having a beer and a bra. And he was loving the place that he built back in 1937. Okay, so anyway,
It's hard to see
he
the
got all
screen.
this done, and he asked Bill Veeck Jr., I want you to do one other small thing. Build me a new scoreboard. Okay, right up there. And he designed it. They probably start building it sometime end of July. I saw a picture in September of '37, and it was nothing but a hollow metal shell. And that's really what it is. No woman has ever worked inside that scoreboard. Why? 1, no AC. 2, no heating. 3, no plumbing. Gentlemen, I've been inside the scoreboard. There's 3 levels. On the 2nd level, there's a PVC pipe running from the sewer with a funnel. I'll let you use your imagination what that's for. Okay? So anyway, how many times has that scoreboard been hit? How many said 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0? 0. That scoreboard's about 600 feet away. When you take into consideration height and distance, it's really a moonshot. Okay? It's never been hit. Now, it's been hit by a ball, a golf ball. Sam Snead, professional golfer, 1951, teed up at home plate, and he hit the scoreboard with a 6-iron. Teed up again with a 4-iron, he put one over the scoreboard. Now, you'll notice we have a lot of flags out here. The Wrigleys were very much into boating. Why? They owned Catalina Island off the coast of Los Angeles. And for many years, from 1921 to 1950, the Cubs had spring training out there. Matter of fact, they used to have barbecues at the Wrigley Mansion on the island. And you can see a plethora of flags all over the place. They love flags. Notice above the scoreboard what looks to be a mast, a boat mast. And they've got 3 lines there. On the left, the NL East standings. I'm sorry, NL West standings. Then in the middle, the Central standings. And on the right, the NL East standings. And those pennants change every day according to the current standings. Hence the term pennant race. Right? You want your pennant of your favorite team racing up that flagpole. Okay, we don't see the W flag up there, which we did run right after the game. It's usually on the left mast, and we put that up there and indicate Cubs win. We started doing that probably around 38, 39 at some time. Why? Well, there was no ESPN and Sports Center and stuff like this. So people coming home on the L or walking home, whenever they saw the white flag with the blue W, they knew the Cubs won. Now, we do have a blue flag with a white L. We put that up at midnight, take it down at 6 a.m. Okay, any questions about stuff out here. Any questions you might have? Now, the ivy on the walls. Bill Veeck was with P.K. Wrigley, upper deck in right field. This is toward the end of September, almost the end of the 37 season. And he says to Bill Veeck, you know, I don't like the harshness of that brick wall. I think we need to do something. And he remembered being at a minor league park in Indianapolis, Indiana, called Perry Stadium, and they had ivy on their wall. So,
Maybe.
Bill Veeck said, let's do that. Let's get that ivy on there. And PK says, yeah. And Bill Veeck says, we'll have it ready to go for the 38 season. Bill, I've got investors and sponsors coming out once the 37 season's over, the second week of October. I want that ivy up then. You got 3 days, 3 nights. So, Bill Veeck took the grounds crew, went out to horticulture places in Chicago, bought up all the Japanese bittersweet blend and Boston ivy they could get their hands on. Came back here, worked 3 days, 3 nights. Now remember, there were no lights here. So they strung Christmas lights on top of the brick wall so they could work at night. And they got it done. The ivy you see here is the same ivy from October of 1937. Hard to believe sometimes. Any questions that you might have? Okay, a couple stories. One about the ivy. What happens if the ball goes in the ivy, outfielders? Put your hands up, right, indicating to the umps, dead ball. Well, Jim Edmonds was out here playing for the Cubs in 2008. Longtime Angel and St. Louis Cardinal outfielders out here for the Cubs 1 year, end of his career playing center field. He knew the grounds rule, but he saw a slow-footed catcher hit a gapper, bounce into the ivy, and he figured that catcher's going to dog it. He thinks I'm just going to put my hands up. I'm going over the wall. I know right where that ball went in. I'm going to throw him out at second. He goes over, reaches in, no ball. So now he starts going like this with the ivy. Ball drops out, so does a second. Picks up one, throws it home, picks up the other, throws it to second. Go ahead, laugh. You should have seen the umpires. They had no idea what to do. We got 2 outs here in 1 hitter? Okay, no. The umpires got together, ground rule double for that slow-footed catcher. Man on second scored. Now you can bet when Edmonds went into the Cub dugout, the coach just said, don't do that again. You know, because when that ivy goes in here, it's very venous. It could wind up over here, almost like a pinball machine, where it lands. And there's probably maybe 15 balls in there right now that are hit. Now, rooftops behind us. You saw those as we were walking over here. Those were basically privately owned for many years. And at first, back in, let's say, the 50s, early 50s or so, you would see people up there. It might have been guests or family members of the owners of those rooftops. They have barbecues up there. But then we hit 84 Cubs, and the Cubs became popular again. We were in the playoffs for the first time since 45. And all of a sudden, you start seeing a lot of people up there. And the city of Chicago saw it too. They then required a permit to basically have people up on that roof. And you needed to make sure that it was safe, okay, before you had X number of people. Then eventually you started seeing bleachers go up there. And the city said to themselves, now you're running a business. Now you need a license. Okay, and they start hitting them with a license to have people up on top of those rooftops. Now, in 2000s, 1990 and in the 2000s, the Tribune Company got a little upset that those rooftop owners were making money off the Cubs product right here. So they got into discussions with the rooftop owners. And the rooftop owners said, hey, wait a minute. We're just having a barbecue up there while you're having a ball game here. Coincidence. We don't owe you any money. So the Tribune Company then put big, huge green tarps up way high to cut off their viewing angles. All of a sudden, the rooftop owners got a little different attitude, and they negotiated out of court and settled on 17% of every ticket there goes to the Cubs. But it's kind of a moot point now, ladies and gentlemen, because the Ricketts family now own about 11 of those 15 buildings on Sheffield and Waverly. Okay, another little story. 1993 Cincinnati Reds starting pitcher Tom Browning. He just started the day before, so really wasn't going to do anything today. Oh, by the way, what's missing on the field? What? Something else missing. Yeah, the lines, bases, but something that it's been here for 102 years. And for the first year this year, it's not there. The bullpens.
Oh, right.
We are sitting almost right above the Cubs bullpen now. It's below us.
Mm-hmm.
Under Armour doors are, that's where the visiting bullpen is. They're see-through doors. So the bullpen guys can literally sit behind them and look through and watch the game, or they got monitors in there as well. All right, so Tom Browning is sitting at the bullpen, kind of where the end of the Reynolds wrap is over there, with the bullpen guys. Inning or two, he gets tired, bored. He goes into the Cincinnati dugout, gets bored after a couple innings, walks out the main concourse, right field gate, and across Sheffield. Starts walking down the brownstones, sees the security guard, starts talking to him and said, "Hey, can you get me up there?" Security guard says, "Sure, we'll get you up there, no problem." In full Cincinnati Reds uniform. He's up there having a brat and a beer. The bullpen guys see him. They're waving to him. Tom's waving back. The guys in the dugout are seeing him. They're waving to him. Tom's waving back. Manager and coaches see him. They're not waving. Cincinnati fines him $500. Major League Baseball fines him another $500.
In the basket.
And a few days later, a sports writer said, "Tom, how do you like getting fined $1,000? Well, that's the greatest brat and beer I ever had." Any questions while we're out here that you may have? Any questions? And we're going to head to the upper deck. So let's go. Yes, ma'am.
This area down here, is that part of the bleachers or is that special ticketing?
No, that's a special area that they have for small groups and that, and you can use that area. Same with the Budweiser bleacher area under the video board over there. All right, here we go. We're going to the upper
They
deck.
got it.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. Hang on to that.
I guess you're just look out here.
People don't understand. You can't be both, right?
No, definitely.
Same thing like the
True fans aren't.
Hey. Movie. The picture down the foul line. Hang on, guys. Yes.
Let's have a look out on the patio.
that thing that goes down
Yeah, because that's the one that I was telling you about. That like they found the littlest gap in the wall.
Yeah, that was a few days ago.
That was Kate's house.
File their stuff for when they hit the road.
Yep.
That's all their stuff is, I guess. That's all they
He gets hysterical. He marries this woman and starts to discover that his new stepson's like equally married. It's really bad, but it's really funny.
Like having like candy.
Oh yeah, like it's a, to me it was one of those perfect movies to get stoned and watch. But it's like, cause I was in a really giggly mood to begin with. So I'm just sitting there laughing like an idiot. My brother just told me, he's like, you need to watch this. I'm like, my brother friends, my brother friends is hilarious. It's like, this shit. But it's there's a lot of like, you know, like you're running through the media, kind of like everything. Or it's played by a woman. But it's he's supposed to be a man, I guess, or he's supposed to be a butch lesbian, one of the two. But he completely acts like a guy, and they're like, and he's like best bud kind of thing, but it's this woman, it's this big handsome woman. It's so funny. Yeah.
Not a red down.
It's a great thing. Visiting another golf cart and seeing some of those going up to Miller and they're like, here's more Cubs fans here than those were.
Oh, that's happening.
Oh, it used to be. Remember the one, there was one thing there for a Cubs Brewer series when I was like 8th grade. And literally 3/4 of that stadium was Cubs fans. I was like,
It's okay. A couple behind us too.
Clean up that. It had maybe your mambo type.
There's some purples.
Really beautiful up here. Panoramic view of the ball field, surrounding neighborhood. And these are the cheaper seats also. I was here to the bachelor's party last year. We had about 20 seats that the guy who's responsible for running the party, and $10 a piece. At that time, it was a weekday. I don't think we were playing anybody significant. We had some friendly seats. So welcome up here to the upper deck.
Oh, it's great. It's not a bad seat in the house unless you're sitting behind me. Unfortunately, the 1926 technology
You got that right. And those seats that are directly behind the pillars are marked obstructed view, and you do pay a little less for those seats, just in case you're wondering. Something about the flags once again. On the left field foul pole, we got retired numbers. Number 10, Ron Santo. My favorite Cub of all time, Ernie Banks. Number 14, something about Banks. 58 and 59 MVPs on 2 fifth-place Cub teams. You hardly ever see an MVP from a fifth-place team or worse. Dawson actually won the MVP for the Cubs in a last-place team. Andre Dawson. Then we've got Fergie Jenkins, 31, also up there. And the right field foul pole, sweet swinging Billy Williams from Whistler, Alabama, number 26. I love Billy. I'm a lefty myself, so I'm a little prone to lefties. And then we got Ryan Sandberg, 23. We got Greg Maddox, 31. He shares that retired number with Jenkins. And for the first time this year, we moved the flag from the roof on right field to the foul pole. Number 42, Jackie Robinson. Right. This is the last park that he played in, the last visitors clubhouse that he was in prior to retirement. Right. And it's the only park that's in existence that Jackie ever played in. All the other parks are gone. Speaking of baseball parks, this was 1914. What's the oldest park? Fenway. When? 1912. Okay, so 2 years apart. What's the third oldest park?
Dodger Stadium.
Dodger Stadium, 1962. Look at the gap. You know, about a 50-year gap. Crosley Field, Cincinnati. The original house that Ruth built, Yankee Stadium. Forbes Field, Pittsburgh. Ebbets Field, Brooklyn. All gone. Okay? Not too many exist today that are back to that era. Hello, sir.
Hey.
Glenn Casper, Cubs TV announcer. He'll be up there in that CSN booth with the Harry caricature, Harry Carey, and he'll be sitting in that booth with JT, JD, I should say, who used to pitch for the Houston Astros. All right, now, flags. Up on this roof, left field roof, we got flags from Cub team achievements. Flag all the way down, 1906 pennant, our first pennant ever. Then 07, 08 World Series flags. Not one here, they were one at West Side Grounds. Okay? Now we thought we were going to have a lot more World Series championships. Those two flags up there got awfully lonely. So basically, we would put a flag up there for anything. We won a ping pong tournament. We're putting a flag up there on that roof. Okay? But we've been doing a little better over the last 20 years or so. On the right field roof, you'll see Cub player achievements. And we also have our 2008, 15, and 16 flags running around toward the right side also. But you'll see that first one, I think it's that one, yeah. It says 20. On the other side, it says KW. Who's KW? Harry Wood. 1998, 20 years old, only his 5th start as a rookie. One hit, complete game shutout against the Houston Astros, struck out 20. Wow. A lot of people say one of the greatest pitching performances ever in Major League history. Arguably right. Next to it, we've got Hack, 191. It's a white flag. Anybody know who Hack is?
Hack Wilson.
Hack Wilson. 191 RBIs in 1930. Cub Hall of Fame outfielder, right? And at 191 RBIs, still a Major League record today in 154 games. We play 162 games now. I looked it up the other day, and I think Garrett came the closest. I think he had 182 in like 36 or something like that. You know, so nobody's really come close to that record since then. All right, now, lights, cameras, action. When did we get lights here? Well, it took us 40 years after the Detroit Tigers, who were second to last, to finally get lights here at Wrigley. They got it in 1948. We wound up getting lights 8/8/88, August 8, 1988. I could swear they picked that date for us tour guides. Easy to remember. Okay. So now, something really unusual happened that night. It got rained out after 3.5 innings. We had a deluge. Rain came pouring down. Harry Carey was leaving his TV booth. Sports writer was following him and said, "Harry, what do you think of this?" Harry turned to him and said, "It's God's way of saying no night games at Wrigley." Well, the next night we did have night baseball August 9th, and it was a complete ballgame. Cubs won, too. Now, that wasn't the first time we had lights. July 1st, 1943, a league of our own, the Girls All-American Professional Baseball League, held their All-Star game here. They put temporary lights up top, the upper deck here, and they had night baseball for one night. Now, how many remember the movie? Remember Gary Marshall's role in the movie? Kind of like the supervisor, commissioner of the league. In real life, that was P.K. Wrigley. Pretty much helped run, supervise the league for about 2.5 years. That league ran until 1954, just in case you wondered. Okay, any questions that you might have? Any questions about the field, park, Cubs? What was that? Actually, I'm not sure if it's proper combination of something because they're hitting that board and it's coming out. So I want to say it's some form of ball. Okay, there might be other areas where they are spraying. But you'll see, when you do that, and then when you hit it. Are you spraying? He is spraying. You're right. Okay. Now, let's see here. Turn your attention to the white-haired gentleman down here and doing a little rushing toward the between third base and shortstop right there. See him? His name is Rick Fuse. Now, Rick has been part of the grounds crew for many years. And the scoreboard is basically manually operated except the middle part, batter ball striking out. Rick takes care of that during games. He comes up to the press box over here. Up toward the top, there's a green box. That green box is from 1937, and in the middle part of that scoreboard. It's like eyelets popping in and out. You know when you go with a shade and you move the shade thing and you hear it popping? That's really kind of what they're doing with the middle part of that scoreboard. He's been doing it since 1989. He studies the home plate umpires, and he knows they're going to call a strike or a ball just by their hand movements. He's got that up there like that. When I come here, I always try catching it, and I can't do it. All right? Now, one day, he may have been a little bit too quick, but we gave him the name Quick Rick. Sammy Sosa is in right field, 8th inning, top of the 8th, 2-2 tie. Man on second base. Sammy goes to collect the fly ball, easy fly ball, catches it. Quick Rick's got the 2 up there on the scoreboard already. Sammy catches it, turns. He said, oh, he didn't put the 3 up there yet. He starts running off the field, throws the ball into the stands for a souvenir. 2 base air, runner on second scores, Cubs lose 3-2. Now, who do you blame? Sammy, not really knowing the outs, or Quick Rick? Well, Sammy's gone, Quick Rick still here. Now, you look over here, there's a gentleman with his back to us. That's Gary Pressey, our longtime organist since 1987. The organ right above him is the Lowry organ from 1941. He's been playing here since '87, never missed a game. He just celebrated his 2,500th consecutive game about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. He's the Cal Ripken of organ players. He's still here doing it. Yes, sir.
When do they mow the lawn?
How often?
Yeah, and when? What time?
I would say they probably mow that lawn about every 3 or 4 days. Yeah. And they do it tender loving care.
In the morning?
Pardon?
Early in the morning?
They could do it early in the morning. A little bit of weather will play a factor. If they know it's going to rain, they might do it late afternoon. I've seen them do it different times, in other words. Got any other questions that you might have? Any other questions? Okay, a couple reminders. Your tour tickets will get you 10% off at the Cubs store. right out here, Gate H, and the Brick House Restaurant. Also, if you haven't seen the 2016 trophy yet, it's in the Motorola Trophy Room, right between the Cub store and the coffee shop. Okay, it's right out there. You can go in there and take pictures with it. Don't forget, Fan Photos got your pictures. Take a look at them. They're available for sale outside Gate H when you go downstairs. And please go out to the washrooms that are outside the park, just to our right of Gate H. On behalf of Tommy, myself, and the Cubs organization, thank you so much for being here today.